Good afternoon. I could do with some lipstick. I am having an interesting day. It is Monday, August 10th, and I have no appointments on my schedule. And I woke up this morning excited to be able to have some time at the pool, which I'm still planning to do. And I did my morning routine with my meditation. And I had two friends show up this morning to be with me. And I started to process a lot of feelings. And then afterwards, I went outside and I was going to do a live, and I ended up getting deep into a meditation, deep into a meditative state. And it was clear to me that there was a lot that I needed to feel, and that it was going to be really painful. And so I took that as a cue to go inside and lay down on my bed and allow that like pain to move through, the pain of remembering. And a lot came through. I want to talk now and I want to integrate it. Uh, I want to remember it and I want to anchor it. And I get to do this live on YouTube in front of no one because I don't have anybody in my life that is as interested in this process as I am yet. And that's one reason. Second reason is there is something very powerful for me of speaking it out loud, even knowing that very few, if anybody, may watch the entire video. And third, I use these recordings as a seed for my creative process. So speaking freely, just allowing the words to move through me without editing them too much, keeps it real, keeps it real. And only the real is useful for insight and epiphany and creating new systems that are for the full human being, which includes women, of course. One of the things that has been really heavy on my chest has been the hatred that is becoming public towards our beloveds, whether it's romantic partners feuding, men and women feuding, parents and children feuding. There's a lot of divisiveness and a lot of othering, a lot of pointing fingers and blame and shame, labeling, criticizing, tearing down from all sides. So we have basically an industry of like self-help, which helps people demonize and villainize the other. Whether you're a woman, you can demonize and villainize the men. If you're a man, you can demonize and villainize the woman. If you're a parent, you can demonize and villainize the child. If you're a child, you can demonize and villainize the parents. And then everybody can villainize the bosses and the leaders. Well, from where I sit, that's not going to work. It's just not going to work. It doesn't work. Anybody who is honest about the expected outcome of the results of many iterations of othering and separation and othering and separation and othering and separation, sees that, well, we're going to get to a lot of othering and separation. And then I just said, is it going to work? Well, it is going to work, and that eventually it falls apart. It's a house of cards. It's a house of cards. And eventually, people will wake up and be like, okay, well, apparently there's nobody that's worthy of being in relationship with. And there's then a choice to be made, maybe. And I mean, I guess maybe part of my fear is, there are going to be choices in the near future for people to have relationships with robots. And some people will be making those choices. And I'm a person on this earth today who's standing for the human experience. Um, and what do I mean by that? The actual embodied, lived in this world 3D experience in this body with these energies and this function. And I say all of this as a human being who has had the transcendent experience at an extended period of time. I've been in Samadhi. I know I've experienced it. I've experienced how intoxicating and freeing it can be to just be in the transcendence, to be up here and still ignoring at least much, if not parts, much, if not all, of what's happening below the neck. Look, there's a long Eastern tradition of that, yeah. We know of gurus who have done that, yeah, who have decided that they can relinquish the body and just be in the mind. And I have experienced that, people. I have experienced that. I know the intoxication of that. I've considered it myself, seriously considered it, not just like fantasized about it, but been in that state and been like, whoa, especially if we've had the experience in real life. If we are having an experience in real life and we have opened ourselves to it fully and allowed it to come in fully, we are able to re-access those states. We can remember, we have those memories living inside of our minds, and we can have the imagined experience, which feels very close to the real experience. In other words, we only need to have the positive. We only need to have the exalted and the frictionless. That is possible from a transcendent state, and it might become possible with technology moving forward. I don't know how the human organism would respond to an extended life of only pleasant and no friction. There wouldn't be learning happening for that person. Some people will be making that choice. And then other people will have breakdowns and breakthroughs and realize that they actually do need people, or they do want people, or they do want to be on this earth with the nature and mountains and birds. And I love a lot of these people. I love them. I love them, like in my gut and in my heart. I guess you could say I love this archetype that continuously showed up in my life, continuously shows up in my life. And I need to forgive this archetype. You know, all of these archetypes that show up in our life, I truly believe that's a part of ourselves that we haven't yet integrated. It's a part of ourselves that we haven't integrated. When we are with somebody and they are irritating us, well, that's signaling an opportunity for more love, more expansion, and more growth. Well, you know, people have bigger or more constricted capacity for tolerance of differences to themselves. People have bigger or smaller capacity for tolerance for different expressions, like anger or sadness. And in general, we have pretty low tolerance, at least in the Western culture or America, United States culture that I know of. This is messy. There's something deeper I need to express here. I'm just going to get quiet and see what comes. This is big, big for me. Thank you for being here. If you're watching, this is big for me. I think there might be a payoff. So thank you for being patient. Just give me a second. I'm going to start with what's here now. My awareness is being pulled deep down into my belly, my gut, my root, my sacral. There's an archetype that shows up in my life consistently, and it mirrors, resonates with, creates ripples around my internalized experience that I had with my biological father. So let's start describing Irwin Rivlin, my dad, who I love dearly. I mean, you can't know this by knowing me through YouTube, but I look a lot like a Rivlin. I look a lot like a Rivlin. So when I look at myself, I see us. The wave of sadness. That's all it is. Poignancy. Yeah. And I have to let the waves move through. I have to let them move through, or I feel emotionally constipated. Yeah, so, and when I am deeply connected to the inside of my body, I'm feeling a lot. I'm very sensitive. And that's what I'm doing with you right now, because that is, oh, it's the most honest and real place that I can speak from. I put my awareness inside my body. Because it's the most honest and real that I can speak from. Let me try to explain. If my awareness is here with me in my body, I'm not thinking about what you're thinking about me. I'm not worried about your projection onto me as you watch this. I'm not trying to manipulate you. Do you see that? It's just real. Okay. So, Irwin Rivlin died at 35, so young. And I was 8 years old. I just turned 8. And like 14 days, like 2 weeks into 8. And I wasn't expecting it, although I knew he was very, very sick. However, there was no hospice or hospitalization period where he was dying, or hospice period when he was dying. He went from just living at home and being sick and going to work apparently consistently. So there was no like signal to me that he was in his last days of life. And then I went and spent the night at a friend's house. I believe it was Friday night. So I was with a friend on Friday and he died that day. And then I came home on Saturday and was told by my mother that he was dead. So let's just take that moment for a second. It was very shocking, and unexpected and overwhelming. And the space was not held in a way that was attentive to my needs as a grieving child, not on purpose, just out of ignorance, not knowing. And by the time that he had died, I had gotten the message and internalized that I needed to be easy and compliant. That's the way that my mom and my parents liked me. And I did my best to stay that way during this period, to the point where at my father's funeral, I was sitting in the service of the funeral and I withheld my tears. I did not allow myself to cry. And I have a memory of that moment where I was sitting in a chair at his funeral in the synagogue, and a big wave of grief came up. And it felt so big that if I allowed it to be expressed, that I would just lose my shit. I was 8 years old. The person I am today goes back to that child and says, please lose your shit, lose your shit, lose your shit, lose it. But I'd already gotten enough messages by that point that was not okay. It was not safe. And I swallowed it. I held it in, and I remember the moment because of how painful it was. It was so painful, physically painful for me to hold that grief in. Okay. So here's why I get to speak for this archetype today, because that withholding of my grief in that moment that created so much pain is I think it's something that my father and maybe many other people needed to do too, in order to look, appear, stay masked, and show up in a certain way that is in alignment with their sense of values. There was a expectation, or maybe there even is an expectation of men to be providers, okay, there is a archetype of a man who is compliant with this expectation to be a provider, to be a gentleman, to be a respected citizen and a respected member of the community, and to show up for his wife and his children, and as well as his family and his community, and to do all of that while not complaining. And yeah. And again, this is when I say that multiple energies usually drive any outward expression, this isn't to say that that expression isn't authentic. It is, and it's an authentic facet of that human being's expression. It's an authentic facet of that human being's expression that has been culturally conditioned and rewarded. And there's more to that human being. How do I know that? Just because there's more to every single freaking human being on this earth. We're all of it. Oh, I say that, and the next thing I go is, are you sure? Are you sure that men are all of it? Or is it just women? Honestly, I'm not sure, because I am a woman. I'm in a woman's body. I see myself. I am everything all the time, or I'm everything some of the time. It's moving through. It's here, available, and it's moving through. That's why I can express in so many, so much variation from very vulnerable to very powerful, from very still to very active, from very quiet to very loud. And I believe certainly men have more facets to themselves than they are allowed to show in most cultural containers today, at work, in the family, in friendships, in community. I'm just not sure if they are having the same embodied experience as a woman, because I am a woman and I only know my own experience, which is extremely variable and very diverse and multifaceted and yeah, gigantic. It's gigantic. Okay. However, my father had one, or this facet that he was committed to. And just last week, my mother shared with me that I asked her, I said, why wasn't there a, hospice or like a death period where he was on the deathbed, where he was dying and saying his goodbyes and, going through that process that I know that people go through. And she didn't have an answer for that. She said that he had gone to work on the Wednesday before he died on Friday. He'd gone to work. Okay, he worked at Coca-Cola. That's why my parents moved down here from upstate New York. So he was a manager at Coca-Cola, and he went into the corporate office and worked on Wednesday before he died on a Friday. Okay. My mom is so proud of that, that he would like continue to like be so sick and get up and go to work. That's so sad for me. Well, I don't know what his experience was, of course. I just assumed that that's what he wanted to do. I guess as his child, I wanted him to say goodbye. Tell me himself that whatever it was that he needed to tell me, because there were things he needed to tell me, I'm sure. deep down inside, it was probably very painful and very vulnerable, and he wasn't capable because of the pain and the vulnerability. Okay. So I'm telling you this, you're watching me, you're seeing a very vulnerable woman. I was not like this my whole life. I was not capable of showing up this way. I was stoic. I had had my emotionality and my physicality, both of them, truncated just through, the culture that I grew up in, the home that I grew up in, the time that I grew up in. The desire to, be a leader and to have autonomy and have freedom meant that I needed to conform to a leadership archetype, which is stoic, calm, responsible, masculine, ordered, structured, clear, linear, on time, keeping the four agreements. I was really good at it. Just like my dad. So I know the pain of having the welling of sadness or vulnerability or emotional energy wanting to rise and squashing it down for a need to show up in a particular way, be a particular way, be in alignment from another perspective, duty, obligation, familial expectation. But I know it's there. One of the things that I say is you can tell a lot about what is happening inside of a person if you look at their patterns over space and time and you see what's missing. Also, what's present, of course, but also what's missing. What's missing? If you come from believing what I'm offering you, which is that human beings have all of it, all of the energies in there, the big and the small, the loud and the soft, the messy and the neat, the joy and the hurt, the peace and the anger, the stillness and the movement. If you buy that from me, then get curious. Get curious about what's shown, what's expressed, and what's missing, what's missing, what's missing. So, what was missing in my dad? Vulnerability, his ability to be with his young daughter, 6, 7, 8, and be with her in a vulnerable way. And sit her down and say, hey, I need to let you know what's happening for me. And I need to let you know how I'm feeling and how I feel about you and what I see in you and what I wish for you and what I see in me and what I wish for me. I'm so sorry. So sorry. I'm sure he was sorry. Not that it's his fault, but it's just sad. And then angry too. Yeah. Angry at God, angry at life. Why wouldn't you be? Why wouldn't you be angry? Why wouldn't you be angry at life? That would only be natural. I never saw any of that, any anger at his sickness or vulnerability at the losses. And again, it was 1970s. Maybe it was there and it just was hidden from me as a child. I don't know. Deep empathy. Deep empathy so that I can feel it and then get to a deeper understanding and a deeper forgiveness. This mind, this mind needs to deeply understand to get to deeper forgiveness. There's layers. And empathy helps with understanding in this way. If I can go into my body and feel along with it, it's an imagination, of course, but feel along with that experience, allowing myself to touch in with the sadness, the fear, the discomfort, the physical discomfort, the disappointment. So disappointing, yeah. What is the disappointment? Not getting it, not getting to complete, not getting to complete it, not getting to complete what you start. Disappointing. not getting, not getting to not getting to witness the seed that you planted uh to bloom, maybe not even having your seed bloom at all, and only having the hope that the seeds that you've left behind will be planted in fruit. This wasn't at all what I thought was going to come out. But I never know. Yeah. This archetype, the one that my father represents, at least in this story that I'm telling you here, which means it's really a representation of this object or the story that I carry about him inside of me. Yeah. Through the stories that have been told to me and through my own memories. But however, it was brought into me and experienced through me. That archetype has showed up in my life multiple times. It's the quiet, taciturn, which means quiet, brilliant intellect, analytic, controlled, precise, consistent, honest, aims to please, conforming, contributing, leader energy, and also difficulty with deep, vulnerable, one-on-one or small group, intimate connection. So competent standing in front of a room, difficult sitting face to face with another in deep emotional connection. Not talking intellectual connection is always possible, but like the deep interpersonal relational truths that come up for human beings as we go through life, like having an illness and needing to have a heart to heart with a child. Very, very hard. So hard it didn't happen. That exists as an expression that has recurred in my life multiple times through romantic partners. And because we never really know what is happening inside of another person, only we can know what is truly ourselves, what's truly happening inside of our vessels. I'm trying to get good at sharing what happens inside of my vessel as like a new, as another mode that's emerging in our culture today, because we are becoming this too. Not just me, like on a larger scale, like people who are doing this awakening and embodying work are becoming sensitive to the energies that move through us and the sensations that are interoceptive, that are fascial and spinal and musculature and energetic. That no one really knows what's happening inside of another person. And that's why I think that I want us to be able to get more vulnerable with each other and tell each other more of the truth of our experiences, so that we don't have all of this misunderstanding and blind spots and ignorances around relationship, so that we can see the multidimensionality of each other and appreciate it and recognize the beauty of the real, even though it's messy, even though it's ugly, even though when I cry, my face might not look beautiful. There's something there about women and that we lose our value when we're not beautiful because we have all of it inside of us. I do a lot of conscious dancing. And the way that you know that somebody's really in trance is that it's not beautiful. Sometimes it's beautiful, but true expression isn't palatable and pleasant all the time. It's not real. And I guess that, the archetype of my father and so many men, or this particular expression of man, is so contained and so controlled, stoic in his expression. It, it's not real. And we wanted to believe it was real, but it's not real. Because we're all we're all of it, or at least women are all of it. Man watching this can tell me if that's his experience too. So because I've had these men in my life, like my father who left without saying goodbye, and others who left without saying goodbye. And this today, I am composting this grief, sadness, and desiring to get to a deeper understanding so that I can get to forgiveness and I can let it go. I can complete this without knowing and without having that final conversation. On my own. So how do I do that? Through empathy. Through empathy. Through imagining how he experiences. And with my deep interoceptive awareness and imagination, I can allow myself to feel the discomfort of not being able to say the thing, not being able to say goodbye, not being able to kneel in front of a little girl and tell her how much you love her. It's too overwhelming. What's so interesting is that I'm getting in this overwhelming, this whole time I've been talking about overwhelming grief and sadness and hurt and not being able to sit in front of the little girl and tell her, I'm so sorry, I love you. I'm dying. But truly, one of the big motivations earlier this morning for me to go into this pain was to get in touch with anger and the anger that I know that men are carrying for women. I know, I know. Okay, this is my experience with anger. I've been deconditioning it since about the end of 2023, um, which means that I've been allowing myself to feel it and de-shame it and express it and be messy and make mistakes and ask for forgiveness. And I've done this many times with friends and family, not for the heck of it, because real, frustration and anger as it comes up with my parents, particularly. I brought a lot of it to them because that's where it belongs. Um, and I'm talking about my mother and my second father who adopted me, bringing it to them, um, bringing it to God, bringing it to life, to universe, uh, deep anger and disappointment. And I have an insight as to why the men stay so quiet, not only because they don't want to break down in vulnerability and show that those tears, if that is what's happening, but there's also a desire not to break down and show the sacred rage. Men have sacred rage, just like women do. We all do, because in our entire culture, we've been shaped into what we're not. And we're told what we are as well. We are that. We're all of it. But we've been told the parts that we needed to hide were shameful and bad and ugly and gross and disgusting. And need to be hidden, need to be killed. Yeah, fucking scary as shit when you see it. Um, well, one of those things that has not been safe for some men is anger. Gentlemen, the Boy Scout. If a man has an identity of being a good guy, a family man, or a gentleman, or an artist, or, a cultured person, whatever is his story. Um, and it's in contrast to the male archetype who is maybe gruff, uneducated, explosive, um, unreliable. And that side of him never gets to be seen. You're not even by himself. It never gets to be shown. And in my own deep feeling of it earlier today, it was the sacred rage is buried deeply, deeply, deeply for many reasons. I use these words so hesitantly. I'm trying to describe felt experiences using words. Okay. If he were to allow the true fire of anger to rise inside himself, it would be destructive to, this is the fear. This is the fear. I'm not saying it's true. The fear is that it would be destructive to, well, whoever receives the anger, her, as well as his own identity as being a, however it is he sees himself, which is not that. And me too. Me too. So before I have been doing all of this emotional repression work where I am uncovering the anger that I'm holding in my body and titrating it, expressing it over space and time in multiple ways, healthy ways, mostly unhealthy ways, occasionally trying to repair and clean it up afterwards. I am now able to make a mistake and speak forcefully or with anger and not feel ashamed and repair cleanly. But this is after years of work. So I'm aware that before we do the work, it feels like if I open up that can of worms, or it felt like if I allowed that can of worms to open, I might explode, hurt people, hurt their feelings, and embarrass myself. And then, of course, need to make an adjustment to my identity. Well, as I've been showing with you on this channel, there's not much that I hold as not me anymore. Yeah, it's me. That's me. That's me too. In moments, in moments, in moments. And my patterns over space and time are pretty darn healthy and good and socially valuable. But yeah, that's me in moments too. So when we can't own that explosive anger is, that sacred rage is ours, then we project it onto others. And what came to me earlier this morning in my deep meditative state was that I'm just gonna fucking say it. It's so weird. I'm gonna say it and I'll see what comes after. We project the evil queen or the dark mother, the evil queen, the evil witch, the feminine that wants to harm you. We are afraid of that. we also embody it to a certain degree, right? All energies are in us. The evil queen. So it's in the man and the woman. The man and the woman, the evil queen. And I mean, the truth is we're all afraid of her. And she is in all of us. Energies are only dangerous when we deny them. When we can be in relationship with others who know the same things, that the energy is there, and we can be honest about it, and we can put the light on it so that it doesn't act unconsciously, subconsciously. It doesn't leak. Then that energy can be faced head on, and remembering all energies also have light. So the evil queen has light. The dark queen, she has light. I mean, every archetype has shadow and light. So let's think about where the stories where the evil queen, like in Snow White, she's the one that has the mirror on the wall and says, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" And gets jealous of her stepdaughter, I think. I think Snow White is her stepdaughter, and orders her murder. What's the light in that? Well, the evil queen is still holding on to the maiden's youth by looking at the mirror and saying, and putting her power into her physical beauty. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? She's still hanging on to the maiden's beauty. And she fails to realize that she, as the mature woman, is now stepping in to a new era where physical beauty is not her power. It's not her power. It's no longer her purview. It's no longer her center of her beingness. It's become something else. Now she's can't know that because she's still holding on to the maiden's power of physical beauty. And she can't see that unless she has an empathic perspective that I'm bringing her right now. Evil queen. The evil queen in me honors the evil queen in you. Yeah. We really have hurt each other. The men and the women, the humans to each other. We really have hurt each other. Let's own that. Let's get into empathy so that we can get into understanding. And so that we can move to forgiveness. Because it's not going to work for the long term if men discard women and women discard men. So, how do I complete my relationships with the men who leave without saying goodbye? I get to do that. I get to do it with my dad. Why and why? Why do it? Why? Why do I need to complete anything? Peace, forgiveness, understanding, relief, freeing up the space in the mind. Men compartmentalize. If they have something that is uncomfortable that happens in their lives, they are very good at simply placing that thought form and object in a box, lock it up, and put it in the cellar. It's like the prison space of the man's mind. It just never gets thought of again, apparently. That's the goal. It's compartmentalized and stuffed down in there. Thing is, over time, you start stuffing more and more and more into those compartments. Life gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller because you can't go there. You can't go there, and you can't go there, and you can't go there. Oh, well, I guess I'll be here. And the feminine energy, again, inside all bodies, is like, what's behind this door? What's behind this door? What's behind this door? What can we make of all this? Can this be repurposed in some way? What treasures lurk in the darkness? That's got to be there too. And how these men keep that part of themselves under control so they never look. I don't know. I don't know how they do it. She looks. Mhm. She knows what she has buried there, even if she needs to leave it draped over with a cloth for a while. It's not locked away in a dark basement. We really need each other, the feminine and the masculine, the healthy feminine and the healthy masculine. We need the healthy feminine and the healthy masculine inside, of course. And then also as mirrors on the outside. It would be helpful. Okay, well, I'm going to sign off. I hope this was useful in some way, if only for myself. Thank you.